the 60s and 70s. Indiscriminately.
So this lineage is not just a trivial...
Every single fucking one of them. They'd call it Woodstock because their bodies would burn like lumber.
Detail of their biography. It's actually key to understanding the logic behind it. These guys used to be hardcore leftists, then they came into neoconservatism. So you can see how this ties together, right? So as we said earlier, Trotskyism was characterized by its belief in permanent revolution, which is an aggressive internationalist or globalist, you could say, drive to overthrow existing social orders across the globe. And you can see this ever so easily because they had just wanted to have wars everywhere. They were warhawks, right? So does this make sense now? I hope so. All right, moving on. So as we said earlier, these intellectuals became disillusioned with the failures of, in their eyes, the failures of liberalism in the 60s and 70s, like we mentioned earlier, the hippies. They saw it as weakness against the Soviet Union because they hated the Soviets. Remember that? They think that it was coddling counterculture too much. So they didn't abandon their revolutionary impulse, like they said. They just transferred them, as we said already. Okay, so the Trotskyist of permanent proletarian revolution was just rebranded as neoconservatism. So this migration from left to right was not a conversion of heart, just a change of mind, but it was just a strategic realignment. So Irving Kristol and Norman Podhoretz and all the other little Trotsky guys founded and controlled influential publications like...
Well, the right has long since surrendered its authority. That's the thing. Again, what are they actually conserving? Like, what version of America are conservatives actually trying to conserve? It's post-World War II stuff.
Heads up,
so
your grid's about to be compromised by
they're not
NXT.
preserving any real aspect of America. They're trying to preserve the post-World War II plan to basically, undermine the sovereignty
intel on
of the
enemy
United
positions
States
your way.
and every other Western nation simultaneously.
Commentary magazine and Public Interest, which became neoconservatism's primary lifeline. It's how they're putting their message out. So from these platforms, these magazines, these articles they're putting out, they began a long journey through the institutions of the right wing. So they were taking their intellectual prowess and their savviness with media, and they were using it to outmaneuver the often less than sophisticated traditional conservatives. So they took these conservative ideas like isolationism and they were arguing against it. And they were saying, hey, actually, isolationism, this is naive and dangerous. I know this is a core tenet to conservatism, but this idea is dangerous because we live in the nuclear age now, so we actually have to put our global dominance around the world. So they were arguing that America must embrace its role as the world police, the global hegemony, something like that. And they have to use the military and the power of the economy to shape the world in the image of that. So this argument was pretty nice to many patriots who genuinely feared Soviet expansion. We're around the 80s right now, okay? 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, around there. So the neocons really just framed their radical interventionism, as we said earlier, with their permanent revolution, as the only strong stance. And they were painting any opposition to what they thought was a good idea as weak or naive or even just anti-American overall. So this was really the masterpiece of the wolf in the sheep's clothing. So they took an agenda that was fundamentally alien to American tradition and sold it as the total American ideal. Like this is really American. If you're not on board with this, then you're anti-American. So let's go over the goals that they had. And before we even go over these goals, I just want to say this flat out. Neoconservatism has very clearly dangerous sets of core beliefs. So the first one, the biggest one, is that America must stay the world's only superpower, which, I'm not even totally against that on the surface, but
that is true. We should be the only superpower.
Means to get there is pretty bad. It's really not either to make America rich.
Wait, what did it say? Not to benefit the American people, though. Key emphasis on this. They do not want us to be the top dog for the benefit. Yeah, see, that's where I would differ. So I would take on basically a policy of rape and pillage. If we declare war on any nation, we're going there for the sole purpose of enriching our own nation. So the only wars that would be fought under my, I guess, leadership, if I had the option, would be solely to enrich the nation and, by extension, the citizens. Like, for example, if I declared war on a Middle Eastern nation, there wouldn't be a single drop of oil left in that fucking godforsaken sand strip when I left.
Even totally against that on the surface, but the means to get there is pretty bad. It's really not either to make America rich or safe when they are the superpower, but to go around the planet forcing every country to become a literal democracy. I already put a video out on liberal democracy and its failures. So regular patriots see the
democracy is retarded.
Military as a shield to protect the homeland, but neocons see it as a hammer to smash any government that they don't like and to rebuild those countries into America's image. And this image isn't what I say it should be. This is the image of Israel first.
Yeah, again, what version of America do they want to build it into? Because it sure as shit ain't, pre-Federal Reserve America. No, because every single country from 1913 onwards that has dared to not have a Rothschild-controlled central bank has been completely destroyed. Gaddafi, Papa H, I'm trying to think, Syria, who else? Shit, I can't think of it off the top of my head. There was a list. But yeah, pretty much Saddam Hussein, that was another one. Pretty much every single war the U.S. has declared, pretty much since 1913 onwards, has been indirectly related, let's just say, to a lack of Rothschild-controlled central bank.
You are clear to hot. Engage anything that moves.
Ironic.
Liberal democracy, the world that we live in now, right? The one that everybody is upset with. So, secondly, neocons believe the United States has a moral duty to act as the world police. Kind of just goes hand in hand with the first point that I made. But they need to invade countries, usurp dictators, regime change, and set up new democracies, whether the people there want it or not. They sold this idea about spreading freedom or something, but they're ignoring the fact that this almost never works. In real life, this gave us the disasters of Iraq and Afghanistan, something we kind of just...
Yeah, the only reason we should go into another country is to take their wealth. That's it. Fuck democracy.
got out of, and we were there for 20 years, but these are wars that didn't make America safer or stronger. Killed a lot of American soldiers, killed a lot of that country's people who were just people living their lives, cost trillions of dollars for us, and it left behind chaotic countries like Afghanistan went right back to ISIS and like elite, right? It just created terrorist status. So we didn't actually really do anything positive there. And a lot of GWOT veterans would probably say the same exact thing, because really all it did was just create a power bank. Now, we just went over how neoconservatism says that America has to be the world's only superpower, and we have to put liberal democracy in every country by using the world police to do so. So now, the third goal of neoconservatism, this is the one that everybody knows about, this is the one that's the most popular idea that people just really don't like, and that is just, air quotes, is it good for Israel? They might not say it out loud on TV, but inside the think tanks of neoconservatism and government offices, that is really the goal there. Any country in the region that could ever challenge Israel a little bit or a lot of it, even years down the road, gets put on the hit list, no matter whether it's actually a danger to the United States.
That's exactly what Ben Shapiro cares about.
That's why they spent the whole entire 90s obsessed with invading Iraq, and they finally did it in 2003. And then we just had the bombings of Iran pretty recently.
Fun fact, not a single Israeli fought in the Iraq War.
So Saddam was already boxed in by sanctions. He couldn't even touch America. He didn't have the means to even do so, arguably even the will. But he hated Israel. It might someday have been a problem for them. So he had to go. They tried the same thing with Syria, and they've been trying it with Iran for decades. Iran is definitely anti-American, but the real reason neocons want war so badly is because Iran is the biggest roadblock to Israel being the unchallenged boss of the region. Look at somebody like Marco Rubio, who's been pushing for war against Iran and interventionalist for just probably his whole entire political career, right? So the neocon plan is always the same. Put sanctions up to the maximum amount that we can do it on the countries that we don't like. Talk a big, tough game, non-stop, and then keep pushing bombs until somebody gives in to the neocons, like in that country. Then when the war finally comes, it'll be the American kids doing the fighting and the American taxpayers paying for it, so that Israel can win. That's what it is. So you may be thinking, well, why do neocons have such a tight grasp? Why didn't somebody else just come in and like say, hey, get out of here, we don't like you, these ideas are bad. But this did not happen by accident. The movement of neoconservatism and its key leaders have often held positions of dual influence, which simultaneously shaped US policy while maintaining deep ties to Israel. Groups like AIPAC, everybody knows about, and think tanks like American Enterprise Institute and the Project for the New American Century also played a big role here. And they also became the recruiting grounds and powerful platforms for neoconservative ideas. So real quick, I'll tell you, you may be like, well, what's a think tank? Why does that even matter? So basically, a think tank is a professional idea factory that studies policy issues. And this could be anything from foreign policy, economic policy, defense, healthcare, whatever. And then they try to influence what the government actually does. So basically, it's just a big group that pays smart people like professors or maybe somebody who used to be a general in the military, former government officials, or a data analyst to look at really big problems and come up with solutions for those big problems. So they'll publish reports, they'll hold conferences, they'll write papers, and they get their people to go talk to politicians. So that is how these neocon with Israeli backing think tanks were really influential. Hope that makes sense. Now, let me go back to that one think tank, Project for the New American Century.
No. Iraq was always a shithole.
Alright, you're good to go. Sending you
Iraq
back in.
has always been a shithole. Afghanistan is the one that was going in the right direction. Then Obama pulled the plug and then put us right back in immediately after.
Had a document that came under a lot of scrutiny, and it was called Rebuilding America's Defenses, which called for a massive increase in defense spending and a more aggressive global posture, more aggressive with the military. And they said that a transformation to do this, like to get people to talk them into that, it would be a little bit different. And they said, and I quote, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. In other words, we need something really bad to happen for people to get on board with neoconservative ideas like attacking other countries, installing a puppet government, blah, 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 right? What happened soon after? September 11th attacks provided that perfectly for them. And the neocons, which were already deeply embedded in the George Bush administration, were now in a perfect position to implement their long-desired agendas. They quickly and they deliberately conflated the terrorism of al-Qaeda, which didn't belong to a state, with the dictatorship of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And they used fabricated or vastly overstated intelligence about WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, to sell the Iraq war to a traumatized public. Think about this in 2000. Games, streaming, media, all that stuff, it wasn't like how it is nowadays. People actually watch TV. That's what they had. Smartphones weren't even really a thing. They weren't at all. So they go and turn the TV on, and they just see airplanes flying into a building. And
Yeah, you have your Zog-controlled media back then, so... That's the thing, is like boomers and Gen X are like the most propagandized generation ever. Because the only thing they ever had access to was just straight up slop. Spoon-fed from the day they popped out of their mom's loin.
New York City, and they're like, holy shit, that's really the main information source that they had. So they were really sold on this after. Hey, 9/11 is the perfect event to use to push our ideas. And that idea is Israel first. Don't forget that. We have to look at the backgrounds of all this. Remember I said that? Remember the backgrounds of the people who started this, okay? They were all pro-Israel for a certain reason. I'm sure you know what that reason is.
No. They were all...
Labeling Jew.
it's because of their religious background. Okay, makes sense? All right, I hope so. Let's move on. I really love teaching in like this history lesson type stuff. Definitely gonna do more videos like this. But anyways, let's get on with it. So as Hillary Clinton said, never let a tragedy go to waste. This was 9/11. I mean, a textbook example of using an American tragedy and the leverage to advance a pre-existing Israel-centric war under the false pretenses of American security. I have a whole video on 9/11, by the way. Go check it out. Okay, so now you may be thinking, okay, well, they're really aggressive for other countries taking a stance in other countries. Well, what about America? How do they feel domestically? How do the neocons feel domestically? So as we said already, they are globalists. So they aren't just globalists when it comes to wars, though. They are globalists right here at home as well. And that shows how little they care about America as an actual country with a real people and culture. So on paper, they will talk just like a regular conservative about family values, patriotism, stuff that I say on the channel, but I actually mean it. And I don't have this neocon agenda to push. Everything they do, I push against wholeheartedly. Neocons out the door. Nobody likes this shit anymore. But I digress. But they'll try to sound like an actual patriot. But when it comes to stuff like immigration, they are totally on board. Open borders, bringing in millions of people, changing the demographics of America, making us less sovereign. And we've seen neocons do this. There's a big neocon. His name is Bill Kristol. And he was constantly saying stuff like mass immigration is great for the economy and it keeps America vibrant. What does that even mean? But again, if you watch this channel, you're probably a normal person. Or you don't like me and you say subscribe for some reason, but that's okay. You can keep watching. You can keep watching. Not to impress nobody. But anyways, from a normal American's point of view, this is insane. Like letting in endless waves of people changes the country forever. Talk about this nonstop. It drives down wages, H-1B wage suppression. Talk about that all the time. It breaks apart neighborhoods. Talk about the demographic change all the time. And it makes it harder for regular citizens who already live here to feel like they're living in the same nation that their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents grew up in.
Dude. I was watching, I saw that they added Mad Men to HBO, which I haven't watched that show in forever.
Body armor
And
marked.
dude, I watched a few episodes yesterday, and it's like, damn, man. It's like really black-pilling, because like, you know, in the show, they're talking about literally that. You know, being outnumbered, or not being around other, it's like, sheesh, bro. This shit's been planned for a while.
Custom weapon box marked.
I don't know. It's just like, we'll never actually have a world like that old footage and stuff.
Current position's going to
You
be
know, it's like
overrun by
that footage
NXT.
from
Don't
London
linger.
in 1970 I always pull up. Sad. You know, everything is going to fucking shit. And the thing is, bro, is there's no other place to go other than the U.S. Once the U.S. is gone, it's truly over.
But that's the whole point for neocons. They don't believe in a real nation with a specific people, a specific history, and a specific culture. They are loyal to some abstract idea of freedom in markets that can exist anywhere on the planet. So by turning Americans into people without roots and a mixed up population with no strong ties to each other actually makes their job easier, though. It's simpler to rule over a country of strangers who don't have a shared identity to push back with. Mass immigration is not a mistake in their plan. It's a part of the plan. It's not a bug. It's a feature. So the neocons will present themselves as, hey, we're the opposite of the left. But really, this is just a misunderstood, simple binary opposition. In reality, these are two sides of the same globalist coins. Both are universalist ideologies that seek to erase national boundaries and traditional identities. Both of them do this. Neocons, which are supposedly right-wing, and woke leftists. The left does this under the banner of multiculturalism and equity and all that silly stuff that they say. And by silly, I mean they don't actually mean what they say. They have a different agenda. But neocons, they do this under the banner of democracy and free markets. Both are hostile to the nation state, though. Both of these are just projects of making people not have any roots. They want managerial elite class that sees the world as a laboratory for its social engineering projects. The neocon wars in Iraq was, in a sense, a military version of DEI. It was an attempt to bomb a foreign society into accepting a new alien system of governance. The destruction that was brought by these, like the cultural dissolution from within that was pushed by the left, and the military exhaustion from without pushed by the neocons, has brought the American nations.
Dude, if we were actually a smart nation, what we would have done is gone in to Iraq, taken it over, modernized their fucking, you know, industries, and, you know, propped up Saddam as even more of a supreme leader, and been like, you're gonna pay us a 10% tithe, or you're gonna get fucking killed.
Contact
Heads
sniper.
up.
That's
The grid's about to
how
be
you
compromised by
fucking do it.
NXT.
You turn it into a province. But the first time they ever do anything to, like, you know, stab you in the back or, you know, try and cheat you out of something, you respond with absolute fucking just, you know, unseen bloodshed, bro. Like mass crucifixion, you know, public executions, you name it. You set a fucking example real quick, because not only will that particular province or, you know, puppet state realize, like, oh, we're not doing that again, but it keeps all the other ones in line too. And then you just complete this massive web of infinite money pouring into the United
That
States.
blaze is closing in. You don't have long to get clear.
While the local governors, aka dictators, maintain order and deal with the day-to-day problems. You know, the people of the U.S. benefit because we have a massive inpouring of cash, and those nations benefit because, you know, they're propped up and they're not destabilized.
Check your mission.
It's, I don't know, dude. There's a lot of shit that could have been done if it was actually being done in an effort to serve our country's interests.
To a severe point of crisis. So now I don't intend this video to be a long deep dive into all the documents and papers and articles and this, that, and the other. I just want it to be a quick synopsis for YouTube's sake. I could make longer videos on stuff and I will, but for this video I just wanted to do a quick TLDR.
You knew all of this in high school? Dude, I knew all of this in 5th grade.
Mission board is clear. Neutralize threats.
I mentioned the
stay in
notebook
fight.
in the past.
Nothing you can't handle.
You know, me and my friend learned to write German runes. So, yeah. I don't really feel like I need to explain more than that, but you can probably connect the dots.
Even though it is going on 21 minutes in the video now. But let's get on with the conclusion now. Anyone who puts America first, taking neoconservatism out of power isn't just politics. This is a fight for the nation's survival. The neocons have done more damage to America than any foreign enemy ever did. They're like a parasite. Hollow.
No, he didn't have WMDs. He didn't have a Rothschild-controlled central bank. That's what it was.
Stay alert for a hostile combat vehicle. Anti-armor gear inbound to help you deal with it. You made it this far. Don't stop now.
America out from the inside. A real page.
Trying to see if I could find it, but it's not talking about
It does not see them as just well-meaning war hawks who just got a little carried away. No. A real patriot sees them as people pushing an agenda that's straight up hostile to regular Americans, whether they admit it or not. The whole ideology of neoconservatism is poison, and it has to be ripped out of American politics, out of our government. It is not a good thing. So many people are waking up to this now, but it wasn't like that for a long time. Now a lot of people are rejecting it wholeheartedly, which is great. But what do people actually want? Like, okay, we got rid of neoconservatism, but we're ignoring them. They're all silly. They're doofuses. They're dumb. What should we do? What we want instead is just...
Dude, true democracy is a joke. Like, this is the simple fact. Democracy is retarded. Most people are not fit to make their own decisions, much less make decisions for the country. Like, think about the average person. Would you want that person making life-altering decisions on your behalf? The answer's probably fucking no. That's why we had... Dude, up until the late 1800s, we didn't even have universal voting for men in this nation. It wasn't until the 1890s where all men could actually vote. The original vision for America was that only a very small portion of the population would actually be able to vote in elections.
Big win for that intel.
You know, it was supposed to be an extremely right-wing, conservative nation of white European settlers. Period. It wasn't until the 60s that non-whites were allowed to immigrate in mass. So, now, the original vision for America has been completely fucking bastardized. So... And, you know, we have people named Israel, ironically enough, you know, coining the term melting pot in order to subvert the original intention behind the United States. So, the original vision for the United States looks nothing like what we have today.
Just simple common sense. The military's job is to protect the United States and Americans. Period. Not to fight endless wars for Israel, or to chase a daydream about turning the whole world into democracies. Next, the government's number one duty.
No, I don't even think it was a Roman who said that. I think it was,
You delivered when it counted. Hell of a job out there.
Yeah, it was Thomas Jefferson who said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. That's what I was thinking of. That was basically the entire mentality, is like, in order to have a successful country, you need an actual educated, intelligent populace.